Hey everybody, it's your buddy and pal Karnak with Star Wars Armada Explained. Today we're going to dive into the Rebellion in the Rim upgrade card Proximity Mines, which Proximity Mines equips to the Offensive Retrofit upgrade slot, and it costs 4 points. So for this card, guys, there is so much information. This is going to be a long video because I want to cover so much in this video, so that way when I do future videos about mines that affect cards like Sabine Wren or Mart Matten, I don't have to cover all that in their videos. I can just reference them back to this video. And there's just a ton here. There's so many interactions with so many other things going on. I'm going to do my best to try to explain that all as simply as I can. So let's just start by reading the card. And if you see on there, you'll see I actually have some of the new Rebellion in the Rim obstacles down on there. Somebody made an unofficial support, which if you are interested in wanting to play in the 2019 Autumn Vassal Tournament that's going on in the FFG forums right now, go check that out. But to get back to this, Proximity Mines. Before deploying fleets, you may discard this card to place a number of Proximity Mines tokens equal to half your engineering value rounded down. You may place these tokens anywhere in the play area beyond distance 5 of enemy ships and distance 1 of each other. So let's break this down even further. The timing of this card is before deploying fleets. So it's you place all the obstacles, and then before any ships go down, this is the timing of when you say, aha, I have proximity mines, I'm now going to place them. As it says, you may discard this card to place mines, equal to half your engineering value rounded down. So if you have an engineering value of 2 to 3, you get 1 mine. 4 to 5, you get 2 mines. 6 to 7, you get 3 mines, so on and so forth. If you have an engineering value of 1, well, half of 1 rounded down is 0. You may place these tokens anywhere in the play area, beyond distance 5 of enemy ships and distance 1 of each other. So just so you guys know, the entire playmat, the 3x6, is considered the play area. Okay, it is then further broken into, if you see the 2 vertical lines going down, anything in between those 2 vertical lines is the setup area, further defined then into the deployment zones, which is the first horizontal line from each edge of the mat. So remember, when ships deploy, they must deploy in the deployment zone for that player in the setup area. That's why you can't deploy ships like out in these edges or anything like that. You can't put obstacles or anything out there. And there are some objectives and cards that can change that, but for as defined in RNG, that's what that is. But it's saying that you can place these mines anywhere on the mat. You want to throw it in a corner up there on the edge, you can do that. That probably is not going to be worth your time to do that, though, but you can if you wanted to, because that's still considered in the play area. So you can put mines off to the sides. You can place them in your opponent's deployment zone if you wanted to. Totally fine. Now, one thing that a lot of people have gotten hung up on, it says you may place these tokens anywhere in the play area beyond distance 5 of enemy ships. But people are like, well, wait a minute, this is before deploying fleets. There are no ships on the board. Why even have that text? Calm down. It's future proofing of the card. Just because right now there are no way to deploy ships until deployment doesn't mean that there won't be a method in the future. So it's just future proofing of the card, meaning if somehow a ship was able to be on the table before the triggering of the Proximity Mines card, just know that you would have to place these mines beyond distance 5. So bring it up here. So we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So the mine would have to be placed beyond distance 5 of that ship, if a ship was to be in the play area, which currently, as I said, right now, there's no way for that to happen, but that doesn't mean it can't be something that happens in the future. Again, future proofing of the card. All right. And the only other requirement, as it specifies there, is that all mines must be placed beyond distance 1 of each other. So if we were to put 2 mines on the board, remember the black is distance 1. So a mine couldn't be any closer than that. It can't be what's called at distance 1. It needs to be beyond distance 1. So fully in that red circle there, which is distance 2. Perfect. So that is the proximity mines as explained on the card itself. Now, what do these mines actually do, and what are some other crazy things that can go on with them? Let's read the rule book. Actually, before I go into the rule book, let's talk about what happens if you place mines in your opponent's deployment zone. What happens if they're in there? Well, can you deploy on them or near them without triggering them? Yes. Because as I will read in a moment, mines only trigger when a ship ends its movement. They do not trigger when a ship is deployed on them, because deploying is not a movement. So you could take a ship and put it on top of the mine token if you wanted to. Totally legal, totally okay. Any ship can do this. So you can deploy a ship on there. That means, for example, if later in the game, if you're playing an objective like Hyperspace Assault, or you're playing the Commander Admiral Radis, they can deploy ships on top of mines and not trigger the mines. Because again, mines are only triggered when a ship ends its movement there. Whether that be a speed 4, 3, 2, 1, or even a speed 0, because speed 0, even though the ship isn't going anywhere, it's still considered a movement, a maneuver. So essentially, deployment can never trigger the mine. It's only when the ship ends its movement near the mine, that's when it will explode again, even if the ship is going speed 0. All right. Let's get into reading this, and there's more. There's so much more. Proximity mine tokens. Some upgrade cards in this expansion refer to proximity mine tokens. When proximity mine tokens are placed, they must be placed beyond distance 1 of any other proximity mine tokens. When a ship ends its movement at distance 1 of a proximity mine token, remove that token from the play area and roll 2 blue die. That ship is dealt 1 face-down damage card for each hit or crit icon rolled. Attacking proximity mine tokens. When a ship performs an attack, it can declare 1 proximity mine token as a target instead of attacking a ship or squadrons. The defending mine token is treated as a squadron with 1 hull point that is not friendly to any other ship or squadron and has no keywords or defensive tokens. If that token suffers at least 1 point of damage, remove that token from the play area. A lot of things to cover in this before I move on to more stuff. So let's start with the attacking the proximity mine tokens and move back to the movements and the other things. So in order to shoot the proximity mine tokens, you are using one of your ship attacks to accomplish this. It is not a ship-to-ship attack. It is not a salvo against multiple squadrons. You are using a full attack to shoot 1 mine. Okay? You are using your anti-squadron armament to accomplish this. But again, you can either shoot a ship, you can shoot all squadrons within that arc, or you can shoot a mine. And that's it. You can't shoot squadrons and a mine with 1 attack, even though, again, the mine is considered a squadron for purposes of when you roll your attack pool. It is not treated as a squadron when being selected for attack. So again, when you shoot, for example, from this ISD's front arc, you are using one of your attacks to shoot 1 mine. So meaning if there were 2 mines in front of you, you could use 1 attack on 1 mine, and then you could use your other attack on the other mine, and then you're out of attacks if the ISD had like gunnery teams equipped. So again, you can't shoot a mine, and if there's squadrons, you can't shoot squadrons and the mine together in the same attack salvo. You would have to choose. You could, if you have gunnery teams, shoot the mine and then shoot all the squadrons. Again, I'm just trying to make sure I'm being clear in conveying this, because a lot of people are already getting this confused. Now, another point is, why does it say you don't treat it as friendly or enemy? Like, why does that have anything to do with it? Well, for example, if you are even though the mines technically after deployed are considered as not having any owners, some people could say, oh, I have Biggs nearby, he can transfer the damage to another squadron nearby, that's why it's saying all that. Essentially, once the mines are placed, nobody owns them, nobody's friends with them, they want to explode on everybody. Okay. And again, when you are shooting these proximity mine tokens, As long as you are able to deal at least 1 damage to them, they will explode. Now, these mines, when you are placing them, they can be placed on obstacles. Nothing's preventing that. You can place them on obstacles, and again, any attack is treated as obstructed, meaning if you are flying a ship that only has 1 anti-squadron attack die, it can't shoot that mine. It can't even initiate an attack to shoot that mine. But if you do have a ship that has 2 dice in its anti-squadron battery armament, again, with obstruction, you remove 1, you still have a die that can initiate an attack on that mine token. So putting them in obstacles or obstructing them is considered a very good tactic. Okay. I think that's it for that one. Okay, moving on. Let's go back to that first paragraph that I read earlier about moving and stuff like that. So when a ship ends its movement at distance 1 of the proximity mine token, remove that token from the play area and roll 2 blue die. I do want to clarify that, like it says here, if you end that movement at distance 1 of the mine token, which again, when you're measuring for a card upgrade effect, you are measuring from the closest point to closest point, meaning you do measure from the plastic base of the ship. You do not include the shield dials or shield frames. You are not measuring from token to cardboard. It's not an attack. You are measuring from the token to the closest physical point of the ship's plastic base. Now, again, this is not an attack. So when you roll your 2 blue die, oops. In this case, we rolled 2 blue die showing double critical icons, meaning that that ship is going to take 2 face-down damage cards. Again, this is not an attack. It is a card effect, meaning you can't brace it, can't scatter it, can't evade it, can't redirect it, can't use any defense tokens or other card abilities like Major Burnson. You can't cancel the die. Again, this is not an attack. It is a card effect. So again, essentially, if you end your movement at distance 1 of the mine, you're potentially going to suffer damage. Now, if one of these had been, for example, an accuracy icon, it doesn't do anything. Accuracies don't do anything at all. So you just suffer, as it shows on there, only hit or crit icons count as face down damage card damages. All right. Let's get into some more crazy things. Oh, and so again, in each mine that you get near, each one goes off. So, for example, if you ended movement near 2 mines, you would do each mine in turn. So you would do 1, roll 2 blue die, resolve effects, remove it, do the next one, roll 2 blue die, resolve its effects, then remove it. So, if you end your movement at distance 1 of 2 mines, you're potentially taking anywhere from 0 to 4 damage of face down damage cards. Okay. Let's see here. What else to go over before I get confused with other stuff potentially that's going on? Okay. Now we're going to get into some really, really heavy rule stuff. So another thing with the proximity mines, can you move them with squadrons like VCXs and Lambdas? No, you cannot. There is no way currently to move a mine with anything. Okay? So, because strategic only affects, as they say, objective tokens. A proximity mine is not an objective token. They cannot move the proximity mine. Okay? Want to make sure I'm being clear on that. There is a Presido way you can technically move the token, and that is if the proximity mine token is on an obstacle, as it says in here in the Rebellion in the Rim rulebook. The obstacles, where am I looking at? Here we go. Moving obstacles and tokens. Move obstacle. Let's see here. If an obstacle with a token placed on it due to an objective card or other effect is moved, that token remains on that obstacle. So for example, if I had placed a proximity mine token on this obstacle and this obstacle is moving, whether it be from like Ezra Bridger force pushing it, or it's being moved with grav shift reroute from an interdictor, or if it's being moved by Doom Station, or if it's a Purgle and it's got a mine on it and the Purgle is moving around as it does for its ability, that token stays exactly where it is on there and it moves with it. So to give an example, we copy the Purgle, it moves, that token moves with it, stays in the exact same spot. Or, you know, when you're moving around, try to be close to the same spot. We all know bumps and things happen. So again, that mine moves with the obstacle. That's the only way currently that mine tokens can Presido move. So that is something that people do use to great effect, is they like hiding them with the obstruction of the obstacle, and then the obstacles kind of move around and then you can bring mines to people in that fashion. It especially sucks if you overlap that obstacle and trigger the mine, you just take a ton of damage all at once. So that is something you can do. I want to make sure I was being very clear in explaining that. What happens for an obstacle on something like Doomed Station, or for like the Exogorphs when they are removed from play? So Doom Station has a gravity rift in the center of the play area, and when an obstacle comes in contact with it, that obstacle is removed from play. What happens to the mine token, if there is one, on that obstacle? Well, the only thing that we currently have to go off of in terms of things being removed and placement is referencing back to Capture the VIP, where it says when a ship with an objective token on its ship card is destroyed, the opposing player places the objective token in the play area touching the destroyed ship's base. Now, I know this is referring ships, but we've never had any situation before where obstacles are getting removed, like with Doom Station or with Abandoned Mining Facility that also does it with the dust clouds. What happens to the token on that obstacle? Does it just magically poof away as well? No, that's ridiculous. It is its own separate entity. It is its own thing. So in terms of, if I personally had to make a ruling, and this is my personal ruling, again, any other TO can make their own decision about it. My personal ruling is that the objective token would follow the precedence set by Capture the VIP. Meaning, whether if the objective token in its final, or the obstacle is placed on the gravity rift on Doom Station in its final position, the whomever moved it there, the other player then gets to place that mine token touching wherever that final position is. Whether that final position, for example, if the obstacle had been in the middle of it, you would then place it around there. Even if it was just barely touching it there, you'd place that token again around, touching that obstacle that's going to be removed. So for example, you would place it right here, and then you would remove it, and then that's the final position of the mine. Again, same thing with the dust clouds. If there's a mine on there, if that's getting removed from play, the other player, you can decide that it just drops right where it was, or again, it can be placed surrounding where that obstacle used to be. Okay, I want to make sure I'm covering this stuff, because it's, like I said, it's stuff that's not in the rule book. There's nobody here otherwise to explain it. It's brand new stuff. I don't know when we're going to get answers for this kind of things. It's definitely things that I'm bringing up to the developers, but who knows when and where we'll get those. Okay. Let's talk about Minefields real quick. So Minefields objective, you get mines as objective tokens, and these are different in the fact that if you run over it, again, it's the same deal. You roll 2 blue die, and if you get hit or crit, the first card is done face up, the next card is face down if there's 2 damage again. These Minefield mines can be moved by the VCXs or Lambdas because these are objective tokens, not the proximity mine tokens. So again, there's a difference there. Again, the proximity mine tokens only ever deal 2 face down damage cards. The Minefield mines are objective tokens, and they're slightly different. Again, want to make sure I'm being clear on pointing that out. This is going to come back to, I'm going to come back in a moment about how does this all resolve with ship movement and things like that. One thing I just remembered I almost missed on is what happens if a ship is overlapping a squadron or a proximity mine token. Can a ship that is overlapping a proximity mine token shoot that proximity mine token? The answer that I personally am going to give is no. And where I'm drawing this from is from Station Assault and the station cards. Currently, there's a precedence for Station Assault, or for the station cards when you're doing the armed or unarmed stations, is if you are overlapping that station, you cannot shoot that station. So I am drawing that precedence from that for the proximity tokens as well. If you are the ship that is overlapping a proximity mine token, you cannot shoot it. That's my answer to that question. Again, any TO can make their own ruling, but that's the answer I would give, drawing from established RNG that we already have. Now, obviously, other ships can shoot that mine. It would be obstructed, but they can shoot it. Again, but the ship that is overlapping a proximity mine can't shoot that mine. And this case would only ever happen when a ship is deploying, whether it is during deployment, when the mine is already in its deployment zone, or something like Radis or Hyperspace Assault and they're deploying on top of a mine. Okay, I want to make sure I was mentioning that. Let's get now into something that is going to be very, very difficult to explain, and I'm going to do the best I can. What happens for a ship that has one hull point left and it moves and rams something, and then it falls back to its final position, so the ship is technically destroyed from the ram? When it ends its movement, does it trigger the mine to explode? The answer for this is extremely complicated. Again, I'm going to give you my personal answer based on how I would rule in this situation. Again, go by whatever your judge or TO says in any tournament you attend. But let's look at what we already have for the Minefields objective. So the Minefield currently says, special rule, if a ship ends its movement at distance 1 of the objective, or in this case the mine that we're playing, remove that from the play area, roll the 2 blue die, you deal the damage. So again, it's specifying there it's when a ship ends its movement. So that would lead to imply, oh, well, when a ship is in its final resting place after doing everything, that's when it explodes. In which case, remember, a ship, when it rams, it is removed before it is done overlapping onto an obstacle. Again, there's an FAQ where, for example, a ship rams and then falls back on the station. It is specifically saying, well, the ram damage happens first, the ship is destroyed. Even though it ends its movement overlapping the station, you can't resolve the station effect, the ship is removed. So it can't go to 0 and then go back up to 1. But there's an FAQ where it changes this. It says this card's rules special effect resolves during the move step while executing a maneuver. This is specifically tying into Demolisher, because Demolisher had previously shared the same timing, and so they changed the wording on that card to say, well, no, you can't Demolisher and then explode. You will explode before you can Demolisher. I can't quite find where that is on here. I think it's actually up top. Yep, right here. So, or no, well, it's somewhere in the FAQ, I promise you. So this leads to a lot of confusing conflictions with the maneuver timing. Is that for maneuvering, you have while maneuvering and then ending or after executing a maneuver. So to go by what the current stuff says is when you do a while maneuver effect, that is taking place before, end, or after. Okay. So what does that mean, again, for proximity mines, where it's saying when you end your movement? they explode? Well, again, if we want to go by FAQ as already established for minefields, that is, for all intents and purposes, they're identical. I'm going to tie that over into the proximity mines. So this is how I would feel this would play out. I know I've done a lot of talking. Let's go through it. So the ship rams. It has, let me put it down to the 1 health on here so you guys can see. All right. Zoom in here. So we're going to say this ship, for whatever reason, let's see, let's put the mine like right here. Perfect. So the ship is executing its maneuver. It is trying to do like a Gergerod maneuver like this, something like that, we'll say. So we're going to say it's going at speed 3, but there's another ship here, and it rams. So it's trying to do the speed 3 maneuver. We'll say that this Minefields card is another ship. It rams that ship. You immediately draw the damage card. Okay, that ship is now technically at hull 0. It is going to be destroyed. But it still needs to finish conducting all the things because you still have multiple things that are still going on. So the ship has to drop back to the next available movement that is on the maneuver tool. Even though it's overlapping it, that's fine. You can drop back the maneuver tool. In which case it's going to drop back and it's free and clear to be placed there. So it rams the ship, goes from 1 hull to 0 hull, drops back to the next available slot on the maneuver tool. Now, as we know, even if it had landed on the station, it can't resolve the station's effect because overlapping obstacles takes place after the ship has finalized its movement. And same deal with, like, for example, if it overlaps squadrons, you still need to place squadrons before the ship is removed. So during this timing, as it says in the FAQ for Minefields, it says that this card's ability resolves while a ship is executing a maneuver. So this is still while a ship is executing a maneuver. So you check where that position in the mine is. It's at distance 1. The mine does go off, even though the ship is already destroyed. So that, because again, the mine is still during the while phase of exploding, of executing a maneuver, it can't be after, as defined already in the FAQ. Even though that's what it says on this card, the FAQ overrides what it says. Because otherwise, then again, Demolisher would be able to do its thing in the same timing window, which we can't have. So that is how I would rule in this situation. So again, 1 hull, rams, 0, drops back. Mine will go off. You would roll the damage. You would suffer any damage cards, even at 0 health. Remove the mine token. Place any overlap squadrons around the ship, then remove the ship before it then suffers anything from the obstacle itself. And that is how I would rule that situation. It's going to be something that is extremely rare. It is really not going to come up all that often, but it is a possibility, and I have to make sure that I'm explaining that possibility. But again, other people have their own opinions. Some people say that the mine doesn't go off because the ship is already considered destroyed and you remove it. Again, in terms of rules and talking this through, I did talk with Ian Cross, who is the previous Worlds judge. And again, it's just until FFG themselves release something that specifically states how this all plays out, that in their own rule book, they have conflictions. So they need to figure it out. But in that time, we can only go by the tools that I currently have, which that's how I interpret this. But again, go by whatever your TO or judge says at your event. So that is proximity mines. I know, there's so much to cover, guys. It's so much. You wouldn't even think that there's that much there, but there is. I don't feel like I'm missing anything else. But that's that. So the squadron, or the proximity mines, that's how you play it. Of course, I understand some of this is going to go a lot over some players' heads. Please make a comment, post something, let me know. Did you think I missed anything? Do you think I got anything wrong? Is there something about anything I explained that you don't understand and you need more clarification about? Please leave a comment, let me know. As always, I appreciate you guys watching these videos, supporting me. You all are fantastic, and hope to see you in the 2019 Autumn Vassal Tournament. Hope to see you at the upcoming primes that were finally announced, which are the formal regionals. I'm going to LVO in January. I'm going to likely go to Worlds at the announced Adepticon. So much happening. You guys are great. Cal, catch you next time.